Welcome to Ohio FFA Career Connection. Throughout this series, we will explore just a few of the vast career opportunities in Ohio agriculture. Whether you want to work on a farm or in an office, laboratory, field, or classroom, FFA prepares us to be successful. Together, we'll get to know various professionals and learn how we can jumpstart our future careers while still in FFA. Let's get started. I'd like to thank Mrs. Sherry Anderson for joining me today to learn more about her career as an agricultural educator at Marysville High School. Mrs. Anderson, thank you for joining us.
It is my pleasure.
Mrs. Anderson, can you tell us a little bit about the courses that you teach?
Yeah, so I teach primarily all of the animal science classes. I also teach the ag business classes, and then I teach wildlife and fisheries and environmental science. So a little bit of the natural resources, a little bit of ag business, a little bit of animal science. So my passion definitely is animals and business. So with my family, having an aquaculture business, that wildlife and fisheries class kind of lent itself to that. We wanted to kind of incorporate those things in. And so we, probably 8 years ago or so, we decided to toss that class out, maybe 10. Oh my gosh, time flies. We just kind of decided to give that class a shot, and it was a huge hit. And then we really saw the interest that the students here at Marysville had for natural resources. And so then that kind of led into the expansion into that pathway as well. And actually last year is when we added the environmental science class that I actually will team teach with a general science teacher as well. And we have anywhere from 40 to 45 students in one class. Because there's two of us in there. So that's kind of a unique kind of team teaching, which we've done that with our science department in the past. We had an engineering physics class where one of my teaching partners and the physics teacher team taught, which was really a neat experience as well.
You got a degree in agricultural education at The Ohio State University. What are some other options for those interested in looking at a career path like this?
So, there's the traditional route, which is what I did, where you go to a school, you major in agricultural education, and they really walk you through the process of making sure you have what you need in order to get that teaching license. So I went to The Ohio State University. They did an excellent job, although now in Ohio, there's a few options to go to if you are interested in agricultural education. And so, all of the universities that offer that are doing an excellent job of preparing future educators. Then there's what we call the Route B option. This is if you are in industry, you love agriculture, you love talking about it, you love teaching others about it, and you can actually start teaching and then earn your teaching licensure after that. So kind of the non-traditional route. And we have very successful ag teachers all across the state that have entered this profession both ways. So, really kind of whatever way fits you best can be a great option.
Mrs. Anderson, can you tell us a little bit about your current job responsibilities as an agricultural educator?
Yeah, so I am just getting ready to start my 17th year of teaching. So obviously the most evident job responsibility is my responsibility in the classroom to teach my students the curriculum of each of the individual classes and to serve as a FFA advisor. I'm also the department chair within our 3-teacher department. And so there's a lot of responsibilities as far as making sure that my colleagues have what they need, making sure that our FFA chapter is set up for what they need, from planning trips to making sure we have supplies to organizing field trips to ordering and organizing curriculum and making sure that my teaching partners have the resources they need to be able to fulfill those duties in their classroom as well.
Now, why teach? You could have gone into really any career in agriculture, but why did you decide to teach ag?
because it's the best job ever. You get to really combine everything that I love. I love working with people. I love matching students to their passions, and then like how can they make a living? I mean, I sometimes cannot believe that I get a paycheck for what I do. You're paying me to come and have fun. You're paying me to do what I love to do. Like, this is amazing. Now, let's be honest, not every day is like that, but most every day is. I love watching students grow and figure out how they can match their passion into something that is going to be sustainable for them. And then for them to feel like they can truly make a difference, that they have found their purpose. So I felt that way when I was a student, and that was the best feeling. And I wanted to be able to, pass that on to others. So, I really enjoy sales as well. And so I really feel like that's what ag teaching is we are selling lots of things. We are selling the knowledge of agriculture. We are selling the students' belief in themselves, and we're selling the future, because we are helping make the future a positive one.
What can students in high school do now to prepare for a career in agricultural education? I'm thinking in agricultural education proficiency, shadowing, mentoring. What is your suggestion for students if they're in that classroom and they say, I like this job? Facilitating is my passion, and I'm interested in teaching just like I see my FFA advisor do every day.
Finding opportunities to share the message of agriculture, and figuring out kind of where your voice is and how you best can share that message. And because we all do it differently, there's not a single ag teacher in the state of Ohio or across the nation that teaches the same, and that's a good thing. So you have to do it your way. And so getting opportunities to kind of test out what your way is. We say all the time that we need to be telling the story of agriculture. If we aren't telling the story, somebody else is, and we need to make sure that the story that's being told is the true one. And so, being a part of that conversation and figuring out how you can share that is a great way to test your skills as an ag educator, because it really is about telling that story and helping others grow and learn. So, taking advantage of leadership opportunities, whether that means running for a chapter office or leading a committee or planning an activity or being an active member within a committee. All of those things can help build those skills. Really figuring out what your chapter, your community, what do they need, and can you meet that need?
Now, if you could leave one last thing with students watching today about your educational journey, about working as an agricultural educator, what would you leave them with?
When I decided I wanted to be an ag teacher, there were not many female ag teachers. It was a new kind of thing. It was the non-traditional, but I knew this is what I wanted to do. And so, when doors close, or the path changes of what you think it should have been, that should serve as fuel to your fire, not extinguishing it. And so, when you have found something that is for you, don't let anybody tell you different. And if you're not sure it's for you, then it's your responsibility to figure out what is. Try some things, seek out new opportunities so that you get some experiences, and then reflect back on that and say, okay, maybe this wasn't for me, but that was a really valuable experience. So now I know this. So let me shift gears and go somewhere else. But do not give up. Have that grit, have that determination, and continue to work hard to find what your passion is.
Mrs. Anderson, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. And more importantly, thank you for everything you do as an agricultural educator. I'd like to thank Mr. Matt Elsaw for joining me today to talk about his career as an agricultural educator and FFA advisor. Mr. Elsaw, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Let's start talking about your background. So how did you come to work in agriculture and specifically agricultural education?
Yeah, so I grew up in West Central Ohio, went to Anna High School and grew up on a um, beef and grain farm. Grew up baling straw, baling hay, feeding the calves. Was my first job on the farm, and definitely got that affinity for agriculture and the industry growing up. And then, obviously, being surrounded by my friends, families that were all part of that industry and that culture as well, kind of harbored that passion for me going forward. And then, going into high school, getting into the FFA, and seeing how that experience for me can be more than agriculture. It can be more leadership building, character building, networking, and finding people that had that interest and can share that passion with me. After high school, I went to Ohio State ATI for 1 year. And from there, went to main campus to finish off my 4-year degree. I spent 3 years at Greenview High School in Greene County, Ohio. And after that 3 years, my wife and I moved back to West Central Ohio, and I'm currently the ag teacher at Marion Local High School.
So what was it like starting your new teaching career somewhere far away from home?
So, I knew in college that the best thing for me was going to be to try to make sure I get the first job. I'm kind of a chameleon, so I wasn't set to, going back to my hometown right away or going back to my home area. And I think that the most important way to frame that is, at the end of the day, as an ag teacher, what's probably drawing you to the profession is that you want to help students figure out what they want to do with their lives, build skills. And a lot of the communities in Ohio, that's what they want. If you can start showing them those things and what the FFA can do for them, what the Ag Science program can do for them, and how agriculture is important in our lives, whether that's in your home area or somewhere else, all those things are the same. I taught in Greene County for 3 years, and I love teaching there. I still see some of my students on occasion and love talking to them and connecting with them. Same with old staff members that I used to work with. Love connecting with those people, and you start to find that we're all pretty much the same. All of our communities they're a little different. There's things that I like about my community. It's kind of like, everybody likes grandma's cooking because it's the cooking you had when you were growing up, right? So, my wife and I live, like I said, I have a half an hour commute. So now that we're back in the area, I'm still not at my home school, but I'm okay with that because, I've got my personal roots in one community and I've got my professional roots in another one. Being the ag teacher, I get so much community exposure that I don't feel like I'm being left out of a community, if that makes sense. I don't feel like I have to be 5 minutes from the school to really feel that I'm making an impact in students' lives and that our program reflects the community. I think it makes me a more diverse individual being part of both those communities. They're similar, but they have their differences. And I like being able to have a little bit more reach in my life where I can be part of both of those communities. Some teachers really like the idea of living and teaching either in their community or close to, and it's really whatever your thoughts on that are. I mean, there's no right or wrong way.
I like that. Building community wherever you are, and especially wherever you are teaching. Now, bring us along that educational journey. Did you always know it was going to be agricultural education or working with students? Did you consider any other careers? What drew you to teaching?
So I guess the two things that I had kind of decided that I was going to try to pursue were either engineering or being an ag teacher. I know those aren't two very similar pathways, but I found myself having kind of an affinity for math and liking that side of it and the design aspects and kind of some of those idea driven types of careers. And then I found myself kind of gravitating towards ag ed. I guess some of the things that originally had me attracted to ag education when I was in high school. One, I saw how my teachers interacted with other ag teachers, and I saw that professional network. And, you know, every interaction, just from the student point of view, seemed cordial, seemed genuine, and it seemed like a career that if I was having issues with anything, I was going to be able to find somebody that was going to be able to help me out. The other thing was I was fairly active in the chapter. I went to camp. I was an officer, and all of those activities and all of those events added depth for me for the FFA. So I wanted to be somebody that could introduce those experiences to kids and be able to help them find path in their life, help them build that character, figure out what they want to do, even if it's not in agriculture, find interest in whatever they're going to do.
What do you enjoy most about your job? What makes you excited to wake up in the morning and go to school, but also go to work?
I love building rapport with the students. I also love seeing changes in students and watching them accomplish things. So, you know, depending on the student, those accomplishments can be relatively small, they can be large, but they're all relative to the student. So, kid getting their state degree versus a kid just giving a really good presentation in class. Like for somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience speaking in front of a group, you know, that presentation in front of class might be a huge deal. And when you see that relief come over their face and they have that moment of like, I did it, you know, that's the joy of being a teacher. I think not just an ag educator, we just get extra opportunities to see those things with the FFA.
Now, what are some of those courses that you teach?
We offer AF&R, which is the typical freshman course. That one we give a survey of plants, animals, and some environmental science. I teach a livestock science class. I teach an agronomy class. So the first half we do a lot of the plant science. We do a little hydroponics. Then we go more into the production side in the second half of the course. I teach an ag business class and for the seniors. And then I also teach a food science class, which we try to use to draw a lot of different types of students in that maybe don't have a huge ag background, but trying to drive home that consumer part of it. You know, we have lots of kids that aren't going to be producers or be in ag industry, but they're all going to be consuming food.
If you could leave one thing with students today watching, what would that be about your career profession and maybe agricultural education in general?
It's never too early or too late to begin planning for your career. I knew that I was probably going to be an ag teacher, but I don't feel like in a lot of professions, you really start to develop a true passion for those things until you get very exposed to it. So once I started to get into the classroom, that's when I really figured out that I knew I wanted to be an ag teacher. And the same would go for lots of different careers, make sure you're getting into those industries and figuring it out. And you know, you might go through 3 years of college and it's not what you want to do. Don't be afraid to switch paths. Have courage. Don't be afraid to make hard choices. And whether that's committing or changing to make sure that you're happy, happy you is going to mean that you have a good, healthy career.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me and Ohio FFA members so that we can better learn about the profession of agricultural education.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
I'd like to thank Mrs. Marilee Dudley for joining me today to share more about her career as an agricultural educator. Mrs. Dudley, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start off by having you share a little bit about your background. How did you come to work in agriculture?
It's been a really long journey, actually, and one that I am so blessed to be a part of. I started out definitely in a different path. I did not go into my secondary education career thinking that I was going to be an agriculture teacher. I went to Miami University to get my undergrad degree, and Miami University is known for their paper science engineering program. And so I got really excited about taking advantage of that special program. After just a couple of classes, I realized that that was not going to work for me. You know, they had these exciting internships that I could be a part of and all of these other wonderful benefits to becoming a paper science engineer. But I visited a couple of paper mills. I started learning about how to work the machinery and just realized that that was really not going to be something that I was passionate about. What I was passionate about was my dendrology class, which I took in between some of those classes. Dendrology is the study of trees. We have a beautiful campus in Miami University. And so we would spend just, entire days walking around with my other classmates, studying trees, identifying trees. And I was like, okay, there's something to that. So I ended up switching my major to botany, which is also a wonderful thing that Miami had at the time. They no longer have a botany undergraduate degree. And so I could really dig into my passion of plants. After I graduated with my undergrad, I did some traveling because I really encourage that. I think you should go out and bounce yourself off of different cultures, different people to kind of feel about who you are. I traveled to Seattle. I worked at a zoo there. I went to Colorado. Just kind of bounced around seeing friends and picking up little odd jobs. But I was always really interested in nature interpretation. So what I found myself drawn to was not necessarily the work in the lab, but the teaching about plants to other people and really sparking their interest in contributing to nature. I was asked to join the advisory committee for the local agriculture program, which actually is just about a mile up the street from my house. And that was Gamble Montessori. At that meeting, I brought my 3-month-old and I was like, it'd be really nice to be more involved in this program. Before the end of the meeting, it was told to us that the teacher had recently left, and so they were looking for someone. And it just really got me sparked to say, I think that this is the right time and the right place for me. What really moved my passion to work with urban youth was the fact that they have the power to transform their neighborhoods. They have the opportunities to learn about the food system and agriculture and not just be moved through it, but really form it. And so I'm continually inspired by their ideas, their creativity, the creativity of the people in our community that are trying to solve food hunger issues. And that's really where I see our program making the biggest impact, is being able to look at an agricultural issue and say, let's just turn this on its head and try to look at it from a totally different angle. The more I learn about FFA, because I was not in FFA, unfortunately, if I had to do it all over again, I certainly would. The more I learn about it, the motto just speaks to a lot of my own personal values. And I think that it's been a seamless integration of what I want to do in my career, in my personal life, and how I want my community to grow. It's been nice to have the support, because sometimes I think we feel like we're trying to do these things by ourselves and we're not alone. And knowing how many FFA supporters are out there really, really helps.
What are some of those specific electives that you're teaching? Is it production agricultural based? Is it preparing students in agri-science, agribusiness? What does that look like?
So we are an A3 pathway, which is the biotech pathway. And so what we focus on is food science. I have a lot of experience with production agriculture, especially on a small scale with school gardens and things. So I am, for the first time, going to be teaching a high school level AFNR, but in the past, we've focused on food science, food marketing, business management, because we have our school-based enterprise, which is the majority of my students' SAE is lodged in there. And then I have taught animal and plant biotechnology and applications of food science and safety. So I want my students to have immediate opportunities for employment. And so if you're looking at where we are in Hamilton County, they're not going to be running a 50-acre farm, but they could definitely be contributing to a sustainable food system by working at one of our local manufacturing plants or in a lot of our retail areas for food.
And what are some of those skills that make agricultural educators excel in their career, or do you think are crucial to becoming an educator in a formal or informal setting?
Something that I have noticed is that my mentors and my inspirational people, they don't just teach. I don't want to say just teach. Teaching is a huge task. It's the most challenging job I've ever had. And so I don't want to diminish that at all. But in addition to this amazing work of being an educator, they also run farms. They are in bands. They play on sports teams. They do so many other things to create a full life. And they bring that fullness and the satisfaction of those pieces and their experiences into the classroom. And so it's not an isolated type of thing just to be, I'm a teacher. They have a long list, all of them. I'm like, wow, how is it that you're able to run a sheep farm? Like, that's amazing to me. But it's because they're passionate about the work, and it's community based. They know that they have people that will help them, they can rely on. So I think that is a really big skill, is being able to multitask and have strong family life. All of them are dedicated to their families and to their communities, in addition to, being good teachers. So I see it as an integral part of, I'm not an ag teacher for 6 hours and then I go do something else. Like, this is a lifestyle. And I'm really fortunate to be part of that community. Other skills that I think are really important is organization. I see teachers, planning all these trips and all these CDEs, and I'm just amazed at how well they organize the event, the paperwork. All of that's really important. So getting your organizational skills down, and then not being afraid to try something new. So, a teacher comes up to you and it's like, oh, I'm interested about biotechnology. I'm like, all right, come on over and we'll work with some of the equipment. And there's some apprehension about doing something new, but I think agriculture teachers and good teachers are really up for the challenge of introducing themselves to something that could spark another student's opportunity.
If you could leave one thing or one concept with students watching right now about your career in agricultural education or teaching in general, what would that be?
I would want to tell the students to follow their dreams and know that they have valuable contributions to make. I definitely want to make sure that they understand how important that they are. And maybe that's cliche and I'm rambling, but there's no greater gift that I have in my life than the hard work of my students, and seeing their ideas make change in their communities is a powerful tool. And I know that every single one of us is capable of that.
Mrs. Dudley, thank you for sharing more about your career as an agricultural educator with Ohio FFA members. FFA develops our potential and helps us discover our talent through hands-on experiences, which gives us tools to achieve real-world success. If you're interested in pursuing a similar career path to the one highlighted in this video, there's a couple ways in which you can get started. One option to dive in and learn more is through a supervised agricultural experience. While completing an SAE, you will cultivate valuable employability skills while gaining work experience as a volunteer, paid employee, or maybe even as your own boss. To learn more, talk to your ag teacher or visit saeforall.org. In addition, through career development events, you can put your knowledge to the test. Ohio FFA offers more than 40 CDEs. Here are a few CDEs that can help you further explore this career path. Ask your FFA advisor for more information about how to get involved. As FFA members, it's important for us to start making these connections and finding future possibilities that align with our interests. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Ohio FFA Career Connection, which is made possible by Ohio Corn and Wheat. Thanks for tuning in.